Welcome back, everyone. Today's story is one of the strangest relationship stories you'll ever hear. Imagine moving in with your boyfriend after dating him for 2 years, thinking you know everything about him, only to discover that he has a very unusual secret. A secret involving butter. Yes, you heard that right. Butter. And no, this is not a joke. So let's get into the story. A 24-year-old woman had been dating her 30-year-old boyfriend for around 2 years. Everything seemed normal. They had been together for a long time, they trusted each other, and eventually they decided to move in together. But after moving in, the woman started noticing something strange. Butter kept disappearing. At first, she didn't think much of it. Maybe she had simply forgotten how much butter they had. Maybe her boyfriend was using it while cooking. Maybe they just needed to go grocery shopping more often. Nothing suspicious. But then one night, she saw something that completely confused her. Her boyfriend quietly went to the refrigerator, took out an entire stick of butter, and walked straight into the bathroom. Now, obviously, that was strange. But she didn't say anything. She pretended she hadn't noticed. Maybe there was some perfectly normal explanation. Maybe he was taking it somewhere else. Maybe he was doing something completely innocent. So she waited. About an hour later, her boyfriend finally came out of the bathroom. But there was one problem. The butter was gone. He hadn't put it back in the refrigerator. And she couldn't find it anywhere. She thought maybe it was a one-time thing. But then it happened again. And again. Over the next week, she watched him do the exact same thing 3 different times. Every single time, he took a full stick of butter into the bathroom. And every single time, he came back without it. Now she was seriously confused. So she decided to test him. One day she casually asked, "Where did all our butter go? I barely used any this week." Her boyfriend immediately acted confused. He said, "Maybe we forgot to buy more." But she knew that wasn't true. They had started with 4 sticks of butter. Now they were gone. All 4. So she reminded him, "We had 4 sticks, now they're all gone." Instead of answering, he simply said, "Yeah, we should order some more groceries." That response made things even stranger. So she ordered more butter. And this time, she made sure her boyfriend knew exactly how much they had. When the groceries arrived, she said, "Finally, 4 sticks of butter. This should last us a long time." Her boyfriend said nothing. Not a word. For the next couple of days, she deliberately mentioned the butter whenever she used it. She wanted him to know that she was keeping track. But then, it happened again. One day, she watched her boyfriend take another stick of butter into the bathroom. He stayed inside for about an hour. And when he finally came out, the butter was gone. Again. At this point, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. So when she was making dinner later, she pretended to be shocked. She said, "Wait, didn't we have another stick of butter?" Her boyfriend immediately responded, "Maybe we only had 3. But she knew he was lying. He knew exactly what he was doing. And she knew exactly what she had seen. The very next day, another stick disappeared. This time, she decided to investigate. She stood near the bathroom door, and she could hear water running from the sink. But then, she thought she heard something else. Some strange noises. Possibly even moaning. Now she was completely confused. What on earth was her boyfriend doing in there? And why did he need an entire stick of butter? Eventually, when he came out, she confronted him. She said, "I know you've been taking the butter into the bathroom. Her boyfriend immediately became nervous. He tried to deny it. He told her she must have been mistaken. But she wasn't. She had literally watched him take the butter. And she knew that he had been lying about how much butter they had. Finally, he stopped denying it. He apologized for misleading her. But then he said something incredibly strange. He told her, "Let's just not talk about it." Naturally, she wanted answers. But instead of explaining himself, he came up with another solution. He said, "What if I just order my own private butter?" Private butter? That's right. Apparently, his solution to the problem was to buy his own personal supply of butter. The girlfriend was completely stunned. She asked the obvious question, "What are you doing with the butter?" But he refused to answer. Instead, he asked her to promise that she would never question him about his butter activities again. He wanted her to simply look the other way. He told her it wasn't a big deal, and that she should just let it go. But how could she? She was living with this man. She had known him for 2 years. And now she had discovered that he was secretly taking sticks of butter into the bathroom. For an hour at a time. And then the butter would mysteriously disappear. She couldn't stop thinking about it. What was he doing? Why was he lying? Why wouldn't he tell her? She even wondered if he was somehow eating the butter. But that didn't make sense either. He wasn't gaining weight. And nobody could realistically eat that much butter without it becoming noticeable. So she asked the internet for advice. And as you can imagine, the comments went crazy. People were fascinated by one question. What was this man doing with the butter? Some people made jokes. Others tried to guess. And some people were genuinely concerned. But nobody seemed to have an answer. Then the girlfriend made a decision. She couldn't take the mystery anymore. The next morning, she told her boyfriend that she was okay with him buying his own private butter. But there was one condition. She needed to know what he was doing with it. Her boyfriend became very quiet. For a moment, neither of them said anything. And then, he finally agreed to tell her. He said he would explain everything. But only this once. And then he told her the truth. According to the girlfriend, what he revealed was extremely personal and involved a very unusual sensual activity involving the butter. She was so shocked and embarrassed by what she learned that she couldn't even bring herself to explain the details publicly. She said she was completely mortified. On one hand, she knew it was technically just butter. But on the other hand, she could no longer look at her boyfriend the same way. She had discovered something about him that she simply couldn't forget. And so she decided to leave. She went to stay with her parents. But that's when the story took an even stranger turn. One of the boyfriend's old friends discovered her Reddit post. And apparently, the friend immediately recognized the story. He sent it to the boyfriend and basically said, "LOL, this must be about you." The boyfriend was furious. But not because the story was fake. It was because his secret had been exposed. And apparently, this wasn't even something completely new. The girlfriend discovered that he had apparently been doing the same strange activity back in college. So now, people he knew in real life were finding out about his secret. And the girlfriend felt terrible. She was embarrassed. She was confused. And she was questioning whether she could continue the relationship. She even said that she regretted confronting him. Because once you learn something like that about someone, you can't exactly unlearn it. The relationship that had seemed completely normal suddenly felt very different. And all of this started because a few sticks of butter kept disappearing. The strangest part of the entire story, though, might be the boyfriend's reaction. Instead of simply explaining himself, he tried to solve everything by saying, "Fine, I'll just buy my own private butter." As if the problem wasn't the fact that he was secretly disappearing into the bathroom for an hour, but simply that they were sharing the same butter. And honestly, that phrase alone became the funniest part of the entire story. Private butter, two words that nobody expected to hear in a relationship advice story. But here's the bigger question. Was the girlfriend wrong for confronting him? Some people believed she had every right to ask. After all, they were living together. He was repeatedly lying to her, and he was hiding something unusual from her. Others believed that everyone has private interests and that he should have been allowed to keep something personal to himself. But there is one thing most people could probably agree on. If your partner is secretly taking sticks of butter into the bathroom, you are probably going to have some questions. And maybe, just maybe, you should keep your butter supply under surveillance, because you never know where it might disappear. So what do you think? Was the boyfriend's secret something the girlfriend should have accepted? Or was she right to leave after finding out? And most importantly, what do you think he was actually doing with all that butter? Let me know your theories in the comments. And remember, if you ever notice your butter disappearing mysteriously, maybe it's time to start asking questions.